Welcome to the deep dive. We've got, well, a huge amount of source material in front of us this week. It covers just about everything: global finance, military stuff, how work is changing, digital risks.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Our job today really is to cut through the noise, find the connections, the big shifts happening underneath the daily headlines. How's the world really changing?
Exactly. And it feels like it boils down to power, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Two big themes jump out from all this reading. First, how power, economic, digital, even legal, is being used as a weapon really aggressively in traditional conflicts.
Okay.
And second, how tech is just fundamentally reshaping work and society, throwing up these systemic problems in places you wouldn't expect.
Right. Let's dig into that first theme then. Global conflict, weaponized power. The sources really highlight this shift in U.S. anti-drug operations. It's become much more aggressive under the current administration.
Oh, absolutely. They've seriously ramped things up. We're talking at least 34 deaths in just 8 strikes since early September. That's quite a number.
And it's not just the number of strikes, it's the legal basis, isn't it? That seems to be the core change.
That's the crucial part. They've basically taken the whole war on terror legal playbook and just applied it wholesale to drug cartels. They're not just bad guys anymore.
No, they're being officially labeled foreign terrorist organizations, FTOs.
Right. And the conflict itself, they're calling it a non-international armed conflict, NIS.
Okay, NISC. Why is that specific label so important? What does it actually change on the ground?
It changes everything. Calling it an NIAC fundamentally shifts the legal justification from law enforcement to, well, a military operation.
So less about arresting people.
Exactly. Under law enforcement, you capture suspects, bring them to trial. Under an NIAC, the rules change. It allows lethal military force almost as a default option.
You mean they can target to kill rather than capture?
Essentially, yes. It gives the military the legal cover to eliminate combatants without needing to attempt an arrest first. It really blurs that old line between crime fighting and, actual war.
And we saw how messy that gets politically when survivors are involved. That incident on October 16th, the Navy rescues 2 people.
And immediately sends them back to Colombia and Ecuador. No American custody.
Right. Which sounds convenient.
It absolutely demonstrates the convenience and the political calculation behind using the NIAC framework. Returning them avoids all the legal hassle of bringing them into the U.S. system.
Because if they held them,
They'd have to justify the initial strike, prove their case in a U.S. court. That's politically risky, legally complicated. So one minute they're supposedly dangerous enough to target with lethal force.
the next they're okay to just hand back over.
Precisely. All to avoid a headache back in Washington. It's quite the maneuver.
Okay, let's shift from that legal weaponization to financial pressure points. Argentina. President Milei's situation is fascinating.
It really is. He's had some genuine wins, you can't deny that.
Yeah.
Monthly inflation down dramatically from 13% to around 2%. Poverty rate lowest since 2018.
But the sources paint a picture of him being caught in a trap, this strong peso policy.
That policy is critical for his credibility. But, yeah, it's a trap. It's incredibly expensive. He has to keep burning through dollar reserves to prop up the peso's value.
And that can't last forever.
No. And that vulnerability is what triggered this big intervention from the U.S., led by Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. They basically stepped in to stop a potential crash.
Right, the $20 billion swap line and peso purchases. Can you just quickly explain what a swap line is for people not deep in macroeconomics?
Sure. Think of it like a special line of credit between central banks. America essentially lends Argentina dollars, and Argentina gives the U.S. pesos in return. It gives Argentina instant access to dollars, hard currency, to defend the peso and try to look stable.
And why did the U.S. feel the need to jump in with such a huge amount?
Because an Argentine collapse wouldn't just stay in Argentina. It could easily spark financial instability across the region, maybe even globally. It was basically damage control. Containment.
But even with that $20 billion lifeline, the sources say investors aren't really buying it. Bond yields are still creeping up.
Yeah, the market seems unconvinced. It comes down to the sheer scale of Argentina's problems and, frankly, long-term commitment.
What do you mean?
Well, Argentina needs something like $18 billion just for debt repayments in 2026 alone, that $20 billion swap line. It helps now, but it looks like a temporary fix, a Band-Aid.
Investors don't think the U.S. will keep paying.
They're skeptical about the political will in the U.S. to keep funding Argentina's deep long-term restructuring. If that support looks shaky, the peso could collapse anyway, and the whole debt situation could implode.
That uncertainty really feeds back into this whole theme of weaponized economics, doesn't it?
And
Especially when you look at the US-China situation. Besant might be calling China weak.
But our sources are suggesting the opposite. It's counterintuitive, but the argument is that China is actually winning the trade war.
How? By mastering escalation.
Yeah, they call it escalatory dominance. It means China has developed the capacity to hit back just as hard, maybe even harder, than the U.S. hits them. They found leverage points.
And financially, they seem strong despite U.S. efforts.
Look at their stock market, up 34% this year. That's double the S&P 500's performance. It suggests resilience, at least in investor eyes.
So what's the core asymmetry here? Why do they have this leverage?
Manufacturing dependency. It's stark.
Hmm.
U.S. manufacturers are now 3 times more reliant on inputs from China, components, materials, you name it, than Chinese manufacturers are on U.S. inputs.
3 times. Wow.
Yeah. That imbalance means the U.S. simply can't risk the kind of broad economic blockades that China potentially could impose on us.
So we put controls on high-end chips going to China. The sources call that a headache for them. Annoying, but not crippling.
Correct. It slows them down, forces them to engineer around it, but it doesn't stop them in their tracks. But flip it around. China's control over rare earth exports. That's a different story for the U.S.
Because rare earths are in everything.
Modern. Electronics, defense tech, green energy. China restricting those exports could genuinely paralyze huge parts of U.S. manufacturing. And the U.S. position is weak here. Only one active rare earth mine, almost no refining capacity.
So hang on. If the U.S. retaliates on trade, we cause China some problems, maybe slow them down.
Right, an expensive speed bump.
But if China retaliates with rare earths, they could literally shut down American factories.
That's the potential reality. That's the asymmetry. Our controls are an inconvenience. Their potential controls are like a kill switch for key U.S. industries. You can see why China might feel they have the upper hand in this trade narrative.
That is, yeah, a staggering difference in leverage. Okay, let's completely switch gears. Moving away from global economics to how technology is shaking up the workplace. Starting with automation, Amazon's plans are pretty eye-opening.
They really are. They're projecting that their robotics expansion could mean they need 600,000 fewer workers by 2033 than they otherwise would have.
600,000 fewer jobs, even while they plan to double the number of products they sell.
Exactly. It just shows the massive efficiency gains and the potential for labor displacement from advanced automation, especially in areas like warehousing and logistics.
That number, 600,000, is pretty terrifying if you work in that sector. And then within the AI world itself, there's this dynamic playing out. Sources call it the Kronos syndrome.
Yeah, it's a good analogy. Kronos, the Greek titan who ate his children, right?
Right.
Here, the parents are the giant AI labs, OpenAI, Anthropic with these huge valuations, like OpenAI is supposedly around $500 billion. The children are the smaller, specialized AI app developers. Think firms like Cursor for coding help or Harvey for legal tasks. They build on top of the big labs models.
And the fear is that the parents, the big labs, will eventually just eat the children, absorb their functions and profits.
That's the expectation baked into those math evaluations, yes. The labs are chasing this dream of artificial general intelligence, AGI AI, that can do basically anything a human can.
While the smaller app developers are trying to survive by focusing on ASI, artificial specialized intelligence.
Exactly. They're fighting back by doubling down on specialization. AGI aims to be broad. ASI aims to be incredibly deep but narrow.
How does being specialized protect them, though? Can't the AGI just learn to do that specialized task eventually?
Their bet is on creating a moat, using data and focus. By training their ASI on massive proprietary data sets specific to one field like every single legal document ever or all published medical research, they hope to achieve a level of expertise in that one area that a general-purpose AGI just can't match, at least not easily or quickly.
So, depth versus breadth. An interesting fight. Okay, sticking with tech in the physical world. Drones. We've heard about drone delivery for years, but it's still mostly grounded, right? Regulatory hurdles.
Yeah, it's largely stuck.
Yeah.
The main problem is figuring out how to safely manage potentially thousands of autonomous drones flying around below 500 feet, especially when you still got helicopters, crop dusts, or small planes up there. The current safety regulations are just too complicated and expensive for widespread commercial drone use.
But there's a potential solution being floated, something surprisingly simple.
There is. The elegant idea is basically this. Just require all manned aircraft flying below that 500-foot ceiling to be conspicuous.
Conspicuous? Meaning?
Meaning they just have to constantly broadcast their location using standard signals, like ADS-B. which many aircraft already use, but making it mandatory for everything low down.
That sounds pretty straightforward. What happens if every plane and helicopter below 500 feet is broadcasting its position?
Well, then it becomes much, much easier for drones to operate safely. Their onboard systems can simply detect those signals and automatically navigate around the manned aircraft. You wouldn't need incredibly complex, expensive sense-and-avoid hardware on every single drone.
So that one rule change could unlock the whole sector.
Potentially, yes. It massively simplifies the safety challenge. Suddenly, things like precision agriculture, infrastructure inspection, maybe even large-scale package delivery become much more feasible almost overnight.
Okay, before we leave the workplace entirely, we have to touch on the efforts to get people back into offices. Companies are really pulling out all the stops.
Oh, yeah. The new office buildings sound less like workplaces and more like luxury resorts, trying to make the commute worth it, I guess.
The sources mention things like indoor pickleball courts, golf ice later.
Fully equipped gyms, fancy club rooms with catering. Hudson's in Detroit is one example cited. The goal is clearly to make the office an experience, something you can't get at home, not just a place with a desk anymore.
From the luxury office back to the living room couch, let's hit our final section, these unexpected social shifts and vulnerabilities. And the first one is a real surprise, older adults and screen time.
It really goes against the stereotype, doesn't it? But the data shows people over 65 now spend more total time daily looking at screens, TV, plus digital devices combined than young adults, the 18 to 24 group.
More time, wow. And they're deeply engaged online, but that comes with risks.
Significant and quite unique risks. What stands out is their vulnerability to online scams, hoaxes, misinformation.
Why more vulnerable?
Well, for one, they're actually twice as likely as under 25s to be using news apps and websites, so they see more of it. But crucially, they often lack the sort of informal social guardrails younger people have.
Yeah.
Think about teenagers. They often have teachers checking in during the day, parents or siblings looking over their shoulder in the evening, kind of filtering or questioning what they see online. Older adults often don't have that same level of daily, informal digital oversight from others.
And this connects to financial risk, too, because their devices are often linked directly to money.
Exactly. Unlike many younger users, their tablets or computers are frequently tied directly to bank accounts, credit cards. This makes them prime targets for online scammers. The old phone scams are evolving, con artists are going iPad to iPad, running sophisticated schemes that can drain accounts quickly, often before anyone else notices.
That's deeply concerning. Okay, final point. The UK welfare system. Sources describe a full-blown crisis around health-related benefit claims.
Yeah, the numbers are stark. 4 million working-age adults are now claiming these benefits. That's up from 2.8 million just back in 2019. A huge jump in only 5 years.
And the argument is that the system itself is driving this surge.
It looks like a classic case of distorted incentives. Basic unemployment benefit in the UK is tiny, provides less than 13% of the average wage. It's barely survival level.
But health-related benefits.
Those can pay out much, much more. The maximum can nearly quadruple a person's monthly income compared to the basic unemployment rate.
Okay, so there's a massive financial incentive to claim sickness rather than unemployment.
A perverse incentive, absolutely. And the result is what we see in the data. Mental health conditions now make up 44% of these long-term sickness claims. It's become the main route to getting more substantial financial support.
And this has spawned a whole digital industry around coaching people how to claim.
Precisely. Because the assessment process often relies on self-reporting and specific narratives, an entire ecosystem has popped up online to help people navigate it.
Including sickfluencers and AI chatbots.
Yes, it's bizarre but true. You have people on platforms like TikTok's sickfluencers giving detailed advice on exactly what to say, how to describe symptoms of anxiety or depression to meet the criteria. And then there are AI tools, like this Mr. PIP Hero chatbot, designed specifically to help people fill out the complex application forms in a way that maximizes their chances of being approved.
So the system ends up rewarding those who are digitally savvy and can craft the right story rather than necessarily those most in need?
That's the concern. The people who are genuinely unwell but perhaps less articulate or less able to navigate these online tools might actually lose out. The system is being gamed.
Wow. Okay, this has covered a huge amount of ground. From weaponized legal frameworks and trade wars reshaping geopolitics.
To robots reshaping warehouses, AI giants potentially eating their young, drones waiting for a simple rule change.
And then these really quite hidden vulnerabilities like older adults online or the welfare system creating perverse incentives through digital coaching. It feels like everything's connected, but also incredibly complex and maybe fragile.
I think fragile is a good word. What connects all these threads is this struggle with governance and accountability in a world changing incredibly fast. We see governments trying, and often failing, to get a handle on new realities.
Whether it's regulating drones, managing AI's impact, or just making welfare assessments fair when AI can coach applicants.
Exactly. They're struggling to keep up, let alone get ahead.
Which leaves us with a final thought, really, for you listening. If governments are finding it this hard to enforce accountability and ensure fairness in areas they already regulate, like trade, security, welfare,
What does that tell us about their ability to manage the really profound, often unregulated ethical and societal fallout from technologies like AI that are evolving at lightning speed?
the old rule books seem to be tearing up faster than new ones can be written.
Yeah, the rules are breaking. And the technology is often years ahead of the law. The fight for control, for who sets the norms, and for basic credibility. It feels like it's only just beginning.